Hey, cool kids. Welcome back to the Cool Grandpa podcast. This week, our guest is Jeannie Burlowski. Now, Jeannie is an academic strategist. And for those of you like myself that don't necessarily know what that means, is that Jeannie's focus and her passion is about helping young adults get from high school to college or trade schools and then into their jobs, knowing what their passions, what their loves are, and being able to go through that process with little to no debt. Now, Jeannie is the host of Launch Your Teen podcast. She also has a book out too called Launch, and it's all about how we can go through and manage and help these young adults go through, navigate what do I want to do in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years of my life and avoid that debt. I mean, I can't think of anything worse than coming out of school with some of the crippling student loan debt that so many of us are challenged with. So Jeannie is full of great advice, passionate about this subject, and you as a grandparent and parent are going to get value from her expertise. So without further ado, let's get on with it. Hi, Jeannie. Welcome to the Cool Grandpa podcast. I'm excited to have you on to talk about how grandparents can help support kids with college finances.
Oh, yeah, I'm so glad to be on the Cool Grandpa podcast because I have so many ideas that really affect grandparents directly, and I don't often get interviewed on exactly this subject.
Well, this is going to be really an interesting conversation because I know grandparents typically want to try to help out if they have the means, but we don't always know the best way to do it, and as well as even communicating with our adult children or the parents of the grandchildren.
Right. And grandparents hear that, oh, it might be a good idea for them to put some money into college savings, but that just seems so cold and so distant. And it seems like that's not a way to create warmth with the grandchildren. It's practical, but it doesn't feel as loving as it actually is. And so we're going to talk today about some ways that grandparents can make a huge, huge difference in some creative ways that most people aren't thinking about.
For sure. And as we get into our conversation, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about how you became an academic strategist. It's something I hadn't heard of before. So I'm interested in learning more about this.
Well, it's funny. People will ask me, what do you do for work? And I'll say, I'm an academic strategist. And then they'll say, oh my goodness, that is so important. And then the next thing out of their mouth is, what exactly is it that you do? So the story is that for 25 years, I have been a consultant that helps college students apply to very competitive law schools, medical schools, graduate schools, business schools, MD, PhD programs, physical therapy, anything you can think of that has an application with it, I help with that. And in the process of doing that over 25 years, I always have a debt discussion with my clients. So I'll say, how much student loan debt do you have right now if we're looking at the cumulative? And sometimes I'll have students say $185,000 in student loan debt right now, and I'm only a junior in college. And my jaw would drop and I would say, how did that happen? And kids would tell me, well, my parents or my guidance counselor, or this one really burns me, a very expensive educational consultant hired by the family for thousands of dollars, told me that if I went to the really expensive, fancy school that wasn't giving me any help, that I would have a better chance of getting into medical school. And it's not even true. And I know it's not true because I help students get into top 20 medical schools who went to Joe Blow podunk drinking school. And it's not even hard for me to do that. Greg, I always say it's one thing to just read about student loan debt in an article in the Atlantic. And it's another thing altogether to see the effects of it in the face of someone you genuinely care about. The crumpling face when I have to tell kids, you actually can't go to medical school now because you'd never be able to pay off all the debt on a doctor's salary. You would have to work in the emergency room during the day and deliver pizzas at night just to make ends meet. And we have to find something else for you to do where you can still see patients, but you don't have to rack up that kind of debt. And I didn't sign up for this job so I could crush people and break their hearts and tell them they cannot do their dreams. So this is where the whole issue of student loan debt started to really, really affect my heart and what I thought about every day. And then here's the interesting part. In 25 years, I have had some of the most brilliant, strategic kids in the country coming through my office. And sometimes I would say to them, how much student loan debt do you have right now if we're looking at the cumulative? And they would say, I have zero. And I would say, you have zero? How did you do that? Because, I just had the $180,000 girl in the office. And they would say, oh, my mom figured out this idea, or we did this, or did college classes in high school where the state paid for it. I walked across the stage at my high school graduation with 2 years of college completely done at state expense. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And I'm a great person to vet and evaluate all these ideas because I know how it's going to affect kids on the other side of the mountain. I'm able to say, this idea will not hurt your medical school application at all. Or this idea, some other idea, is not good and do not try that. Don't even get within a 10-foot pole of that idea. And so these clients are feeding me these ideas. And at first I just wrote down, I would write a note on a piece of paper and stick it in a desk drawer. And I did that over and over again because, Greg, this is what consultants do. We get brilliant ideas from one person and we charge the next person by the hour to hear that exact same information. So the pile in my desk drawer got higher and higher, all these ideas, and I had to decide what to do with this. Would I open a new consulting company? Because I know how to do that. I have all the infrastructure for it. Would I charge families $5,000 to figure out how to get their kids through college debt-free and directly into jobs they love afterward? It would make sense. I mean, would you pay $5,000 to save your kid $150,000 in mistakes? Yes, you would. But I couldn't do it. And the reason I couldn't do it is because of my faith. I have to move because of my faith toward the poor and the marginalized and people who have nothing and kids who are just getting out of foster care at the age of 18 with all their stuff in a garbage bag. I have to be the person for those people. And so I could not charge people $5,000 for this. So I took everything that I know and I stuffed it into a book that anybody can get for free at the library. And if it's not at a local library, then any librarian will order it. So that's my story on how I became, what academic strategy is, and how I came to be where I am today in this chair with you, Greg.
Well, I love it because you hit on a couple of concepts there amongst coaches and amongst people, which is the ability to scale, right? Because like you said, hey, you can spend a bunch of money on one-on-one, but that doesn't let you help so many more people. So if you're able to put it into books, I know you've got a podcast, a YouTube channel. I know you've got blogs, so many of these things that you can scale and then you can impact so many other people other than the ones that are sitting across from you for an hour, once a week.
Right. I wouldn't want to confine myself to just the number of families I could talk to in a given year. I don't want people to have to call me and then I say, I'm sorry, my next appointment is available 11 months from now. And so you're mentioning podcast, blog, articles. The key best thing that I have is my tribe membership. And this is where families pay me a teeny tiny little bit of money per month, and they get to meet with me in large group settings online about 11 times a year, which is not it's not a huge imposition on anybody's time or schedule or calendar, but it allows people who are walking through the steps in the book I wrote to be able to actually have questions about their individual situation and then reach out to the author that wrote the book and say, what about this? We live in California. Our child has a disability. Our husband is in the military. What do we do about this particular thing that you've written about? And the more I do this, with the tribe membership, the more excited I am at the real level of help I'm able to give people for just a teeny, teeny, tiny amount of money per month. It doesn't end up to be anywhere near a $5,000 consulting bill.
Absolutely. And one of the things too is that with grandparents, we typically, if you're active, you're involved, we want to do a lot of gift giving. That's one of the ways that we typically will show love towards grandchildren, even our adult children, right? And I know that you've got an excellent idea that can help grandparents build up a legacy, and it's not very much. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. And what grandparents love about this idea is that it doesn't cost the grandparents any more than what they are spending on gifts right now. And here's the gift giving strategy that I recommend. So many grandparents have told me this was hugely impactful for their grandchildren, even the grandchildren who were tiny. They were just newborns or they were teenagers. This works really well. So imagine, Greg, that I know you have grandchildren that are in elementary school. So imagine that it's Christmas or it's birthday, or it's confirmation, or it's Valentine's Day, or whatever it is. It's a gift-giving occasion of some kind. And the kid's opening a lot of toys, and you know how fast they open their toys, and they throw them to the side, and they look for whatever the next toy is. There's a lot of plastic, and there's itchy sweaters. All kinds of gifts are being given. And then there's a box that is from Grandpa, and inside there's a letter, not a sweater, there's a letter. And the letter says, I want to tell you how proud I am of you. I'm proud of the good choices you're making, the good character that you're showing when you're kind to other people. And if the child is very, very tiny, then the letter can say, I just have such high hopes for you. I think you're in this family and you're going to be able to do something great for the world someday. You can say that even to a newborn. And maybe the grandparent will put in some pictures of them and the child together. Maybe do that, maybe not. But this letter expressing love and care and hope for the future. And for older kids, pride in what the kid has accomplished and worked hard on and what kind of character they have. And then the grandparent can say, I have taken a little bit of money and put it into college savings for you. And you might possibly use this to go to college someday. You might use it to go to technical school. But I want you to know I've tucked this away because you're worth investing in. And the grandparent may open a 529 college savings plan in the grandparent's name with this child named as beneficiary. Any financial advisor will be able to help set that up. So now let's talk a second about the amount of money. Nobody needs to know how much money you just tucked away. No one needs to know how much money you put into a 529 college savings plan in honor of this kid's 7th birthday. Nobody needs to know. It could be $20. It doesn't matter. If you're a family of more means, it could be $1,000. Nobody needs to know how much it was. So even grandparents who have very, very little flexibility financially, many of them are able to say, I could put $20 in a college savings plan. And it'll grow with the miracle of compound interest. It'll actually really be something by the time this child is 18 years old. But the message is what matters. You matter. You're significant. We're proud of you. We think that you're going to have a bright future. We want to invest in you because we want to be a part of that. And so you don't say how much it was. And then you could give these gifts on regular gift-giving occasions. Whatever your religious holidays are, you give it on birthdays. You can give it on Flag Day if you want. There's a letter from Grandpa coming. And then what people who have read the book I wrote, Launch How to Get Your Kids Through College Debt-Free and into Jobs They Love Afterward, there's a chapter in there called Prior to 7th Grade, where I actually detail and I explain exactly this strategy. So grandparents who aren't riding in the car right now, I can't write this idea down. You'll see it when you get to that chapter called Prior to 7th Grade. So grandparents who do this, the parents of the kids are instructed to save these letters and save these photos because someday the parents are going to use some kind of online service that makes a scrapbook. There's a number of
Right.
different ones. And they just upload grandpa's letters in his own handwriting, grandma's letters, the pictures of grandma and the kid together. And I promise you that the book that comes out as a result of this, these sweet letters that have been coming to the child since they were 6 or 7, or some families aren't hearing about this idea until their grandkids are 16 years old. Doesn't matter when you start. The earlier, the better. Parents and grandparents are, I should say, parents and students are able to see the development of this as the years go by. And this book will become a treasured keepsake, and it will mean more to the child as an adult than 100 sweaters or plastic toys. If I had something like this, if my grandfather had thought ahead and had provided me a little letter every time I had a birthday, and then I was able to keep it afterwards, it would be hugely impactful for me. And how much does it cost the grandparent? Well, maybe could be as little as $20 on every birthday, or it could be more if the grandparents can afford that.
I love it. I love both the, being on a regular contribution schedule for whatever you can do. And then I also love the touch point of the letters or even a postcard or something along those lines, because as grandparents, who knows how much longer we've got, right? And I'm not trying to be depressing or anything, but it's one of those like, hey, you're leaving something tangible that grandchild, when they're older, is definitely going to appreciate. Maybe when they're 6 years old, they just want to get back in and watch Paw Patrol or whatever it is and don't care. But when they're 16, 17, 18 years old and they've got a note from grandma that says, hey, I really believe in you, we're making a contribution, go out and conquer the world. That's going to mean a lot to somebody.
It will mean so much to the kids. And if they're 16 years old and they're kind of grumpy teenagers and they're hard to shop for at that age, the letter that comes from grandma and grandpa in the box every birthday and every holiday, it begins to mean more and more because it's something that happened as the years went by. I can't emphasize enough, it's never too late to start this. Even if a kid is 18 years old right now and you think, I just found out about this idea now. I wish I could have started it when the child was newborn. That's okay. Just start where you are, because whatever you do is going to be meaningful to this kid after you're gone.
Absolutely. And I do want to pivot over a little bit to what are some of the suggestions that you have for grandparents that want to see their grandchildren graduate from college or trade school or whatnot debt free, but maybe they don't want to spend the money for tuition, or maybe they don't want to dive deep into the scholarship work.
Right. Here's what grandparents worry about. What if we sacrificed, we set aside a bunch of money for tuition payments, and then what if it got wasted? What if my children and my grandchildren just waste my contribution on some college degree that's not going to go anywhere, that doesn't actually end up leading to a good job? And then my grandchild is left with this degree that doesn't help anything. I don't want to invest in that. And so I have a response to that. Everything that I do related to college debt is always tied to a career afterward. So the cover of this book that I wrote says, launch how to get your kids through college debt free. And then it says, into jobs they love afterward. Because we never, ever talk about college without also talking about the career it's going to lead to afterward. I wish actually the editors had allowed me to make those words the biggest, into jobs they love afterward, because that's what we really care about. And in chapter 13 of Launch, the book I wrote, I talk about getting kids 3 career assessments when they are in 10th grade or as soon as possible after that, so these kids can clarify the bullseye on the target before they take aim and shoot. So they know going in, they're going to be in a college major that is beautifully attuned to who they are, their talents, their abilities, their gifts, their strengths, and they're excited about this goal, and they're getting internships and they're getting job experience right in their field, so that it leads the kids to doing an actual career when they're done. And grandparents love this idea. But grandparents don't really have the academic strategy experience to be able to walk a person through this. And so what some grandparents are doing is they're saying, okay, this book here is laid out according to your kid's current month and year in school. No one reads it cover to cover. It's a reference book. So people who open it up will see there's a chapter there marked May of 8th grade. There's another chapter marked September of 9th grade. There's another one, December of 9th grade. Starting when a kid is prior to 7th grade and going all the way to the dropping off at the dorm room door, parents and grandparents are reading just a little easy reading assignment about every 3 months as the kids are growing up. And so it's very, very easy. It's bite-sized. I never tell you anything that you don't need to know right now. So what some grandparents are doing is they're saying to their son and their daughter, how about if I'm following the steps in here? Because I know you're busy. I know you're at work every day. You come home, you got to manage your house. I'm grandpa, I'm retired. I'll read these chapters and then I'll just check in with you and with the grandchildren and say, you know, the author of this book is recommending right now that kids who are in 9th grade pick one extracurricular activity and go in deep, one that they love, and really invest in it rather than doing a whole bunch of scattershot activities. Should we have a conversation about this? I'd be glad to tell you what I've found out about this. And kids feel like you care, you're involved. Your grandkids feel like you care and you're involved. And since I'm talking about this going through step by step, you know, read a chapter every 3 months as your kids and as your grandkids are growing up, it's possible for someone to jump in at any point. So some people get this book when their kids are, you know, the grandkids are 6 years old, and some don't get it until the grandkids are 17, and it doesn't matter. Anyone can jump in at any point and benefit. There was one lady, she wrote a review on Amazon, and she said, I didn't get this book till my kid was a senior in high school. I only read 1/8 of an inch of the pages because she just went right to that chapter. And she said, I still saved thousands and thousands of dollars on college costs. And I like this because I'm able to make sure the investment that the grandparents make, whether it's financial or whether it's time investment, it's going to go straight to this goal, an actual job that makes real money when college is over.
I love that, being able to focus in on what's happening afterwards, because as kids get further into high school, they are able to anticipate what's happening 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, 4. You can't do that with somebody that's in 7th grade, because being an 8th grader is an eternity. But as they get older, they're able to, you know, and that's just part of the maturing process, is being able to start to project out and seeing what's going on. So having those career discussions is great.
Yes. And some parents think, my child is in 8th grade. They were just in diapers yesterday. This is all going so fast. And what parents don't realize is the child is in 8th grade and they just took a class in middle school called U.S. History from 1865 to the present. And the kid just took this class, and you know what? They might know enough right now to be able to take a CLEP exam, college level examination program. This is where they test out of a real college class and get real college credit based on what they just learned in their middle school history class. Well, if nobody tells you that this is a possibility, if you don't have a little chapter to read that says, hey, your kid just finished 8th grade, try this idea. Go to modernstates.org, where they actually prepare kids for these CLEP exams and then provide a voucher that pays for the cost of taking the CLEP exams. If parents don't have the time to be able to find that out, they're very fortunate if there are caring grandparents that are a part of the picture who can say, you know what, I just read Jason's chapter for May of 8th grade. I just read this. And how about if I work with him on trying to pass a CLEP exam? Wouldn't it be cool if he's only in 8th grade and he says, you know what, I wondered if I was college material, but now I know for sure because I'm only just out of 8th grade and I already have 3 college credits under my belt.
Oh yeah. I mean, total bragging rights through, you know, the rest of 8th grade and into 9th grade, right? Is,
yes.
Hey, I already have college credits. You know, look at me, I'm smart. And it feeds into that self-esteem, right? Because it's like, as things get harder, they can always go, hey, you've got college credit. You've taken this. You know how to, do hard work and make accomplishments.
Yes, because everyone don't you, we all remember what we felt like in middle school and in high school. You wonder, you don't know enough about the world to know if you measure up or if you're smart or not. But when you have some concrete evidence that you may actually have some capability, like 3 college credits from having taken a CLEP exam and you're only in 8th grade, the key is families need to be able to find out about this. And you can't find out about it just by reading the entire internet. You need somebody to say, oh, your kid's in this point in life right now, try this. And then come back 3 months later, I'll give you something else to try that'll be a big help. And if you have a question about your individual situation, be in my tribe membership so you can meet with me online 11 times a year and ask me any question that comes up to your mind.
Oh, that's awesome. And for grandparents that might have like $900 and they've got granddaughters and they want to help that granddaughter make it through school debt free, what's the best use that we can make of that money?
Wow, this is such a good question. If I had only $900, what would be the most impactful way that I could spend that? And a grandparent is thinking, I don't know that I just want to hand it to someone and say, take any random college class. That may be a good investment of my $900 or it may not be. So here's what I strongly suggest. I would say the key pivotal point that's in launch is in chapter 13, where I talk about kids taking career assessments early on. And I want kids to take them when they are age 15 or as soon as possible after that. Some people don't hear about this until their kids are 23, and it's okay to do it then. But the optimal time is age 15. And it says in chapter 13, the title of that chapter in my book is labeled January of 10th grade. So when I say career assessments, I am not talking about the career assessments offered for free at the local high school. Those career assessments are notoriously inaccurate. They're not well researched. And by the way, don't fault your guidance counselor for offering this. They're just offering what they have available within the school district budget, right? They all love kids and they mean well. But those career assessments are not what I'm looking for as an academic strategist. Kids tell me, he'll say, I was obviously really gifted in science, technology, engineering, and math. And the career assessments I took at the school came back and said, you should be a bartender or you should be a lumberjack. And the kids are rolling their eyes, but then they're also just demoralized. Like, really, that's what I should be. So I prescribe that I want students to take 3 high quality, well-researched, gold standard career assessments that have to be evaluated by a certified professional. They have to be administered and interpreted by a professional. Now, I don't do this myself. In particular, I make sure I don't do this by myself. I make no money off of this. And the reason I'm so particular about that is I don't want anyone to think Jeannie's so emphatic about this because she wants to make money for herself. I make zero off of this. I refer out to other professional people that do this. And typically it can cost $899 for a student ages 15 and up to take 3 career assessments with a certified professional and have those interpreted. So this boy or this girl knows at age 15, here are my top 5 strengths based on Gallup research. These are the biggest talents that have been showing up in my life ever since I've been a kid. This kid will be able to say, I took the Myers-Briggs type indicator and I know my career personality type. So I can tell you, I have introversion, which is this beautiful capacity to get energy from being alone and do really deep thought. Or the kid is able to say, I have charts and graphs showing what I am most interested in life. And I'm able to tell you, I'm interested in things that are enterprising, or I'm interested in the military, or I'm interested in natural science and intersection with human beings, and medicine might be a thing for me. So these are so powerful, not only for kids being able to clarify the bullseye on the target in choosing a major, but oh my goodness, if these kids do decide to apply for some scholarships, kids who follow me, they typically will apply for 10 scholarships every year, starting in middle school and going all the way through high school, all the way through college, all the way through graduate school. 10 is not very many, especially if you can write one scholarship application essay based on all this beautiful data and then use it over and over again. I always say I'm really not for scholarships. I'm about other easier, more low-hanging fruit strategies for getting college paid for. But kids tell me, once my parents and my grandparents started talking about debt-free college, I kind of got interested in scholarships and found it wasn't very hard to apply for them. So if you've got a grandparent listening and they've got $900 to spend on a kid, or they can save up $900 over the course of 10 years, I would say absolute genius to get them these 3 career assessments. And I talk about this emphatically in my tribe membership, which is my tribe membership, typically the second meeting we have, I'm talking about this. Grandparents have said this made all the difference in the world. Kids come out of anxiety. They come out of depression because they have a sense of purpose. And it's wonderful if grandma and grandpa can be at the source of that.
Well, and what a great connection point too, because as you get the results of these assessment tests, that can lead to some conversations about, did you know that my grandfather was a pharmacist? Did you know that my aunt did this? Did you know that these people did this? And so you have that connection of the interest and skill sets and things like that that connect to other extended family members that grandchild may not even know about or never met before.
Yes. And the grandparents can say things like, I am so proud of these 3. Here's 3 of your talents on the Clifton Strengths Assessment, which was formerly called Strengths Finder 2.0. And, I really saw you using these strengths when you were in your extracurricular activity at school this year. And you were so able to bring everybody together as a team on the robotics club. I think it's because you have winning others over, and you have analytical, and you have achiever on that Strengths Finder inventory. So grandparents are able to get some vocabulary for being able to compliment and build up the kid. Instead of just saying, you're great, you're awesome, you have more vocabulary and specificity to start building this kid's image of who they are. My own daughter is 23. She's going in for a job interview on Monday. She texted me and said, can you remind me what my top 5 strengths are based on Gallup research? Because she used those at the age of 15 to select career goal, and she is rocking it. Absolutely amazing. And she's so thrilled that her job is so easy because she's naturally good at it. She can hardly believe they pay her to do what they pay her to do.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, I do know from listening, to
Sure.
the podcast and YouTube channel, you've got some kind of radical ideas when it comes to scholarships that I'd love for you to talk about.
Yeah, I would say I'm pretty radical. I tell students, first of all, I will get you through college debt-free without any scholarships. So if you're worried, you think your grades aren't good enough, you think your test scores aren't good enough, don't even worry about it. Students who feel like, I feel like applying for scholarships is like chipping away at a mountain with a teaspoon. It's like such a huge job, I don't even want to get started. So every month inside my tribe, every March inside my tribe membership, it's always scholarship month. And I provide all the students and all the parents with about an 11-minute video where I talk straight to the kids. And I talk to them about why they may want to apply for some scholarships. And I sort of debunk all these ideas what people have on why they wouldn't want to do it. And I say, when I was in high school, I didn't want to do it either. But here's some things to think about. And kids watch this thing for 11 minutes and they go, I think I actually could try this. Especially because Mrs. Burlowski says that all we have to do is apply for 10 scholarships a year. That's not very difficult. If I have one scholarship application essay I can use over and over again, I can easily knock that out in a weekend. And also at the same time, I'm telling people, here are all the best places to find scholarships to apply for. Kids, listen to I got like a 34-minute video training on how to put together one scholarship application essay they can use over and over again. And kids are just rocking this. Let me tell you a story. I spoke at a high school, White Bear Lake, Minnesota, at the South Campus, completely packed. Parents were lined up around the edge of the room. And so this huge auditorium full of people, there was a long line that formed at the end of people wanting to come up and ask me questions. So a dad stood in line for a long time to shake my hand. And he said, I just wanted to tell you thank you because you spoke here last year. And on the way home in the car, my son said to me, she's ridiculous. What an idiot. This will never work. She's trying to say that I could apply for 10 scholarships a year and just use the same essay over and over again with minor modifications. And the dad was so smart. He looked at this kid and he said, yeah, why don't you just prove it to her? Why don't you just prove to her how ridiculous she is? And the kid said, I'm going to do it. I'm in 10th grade. I'm going to apply not just for 10 scholarships this year. I'm going to apply for 20 of them. And then I'm going to go to her and I'm going to say, look, your ideas didn't work. And the dad was standing in the line to tell me his kid had applied for 20 scholarships and got 8 of them.
Wow.
He had $20,000 to help pay his own college bills, and he is only in 10th grade. Now, I want to say to everyone listening, I want that story to be your grandkids' story. And I talk about that in March inside the tribe membership. I would say that's pretty radical. Most people you hear talking about scholarships aren't saying, use the same essay over and over, make it easy, just do 10 each year. And so kids say, I think I can actually handle that. That just sounds really doable. I'm going to give it a try. And then when they start getting them, they get very excited. They snowball and then they apply for more and they get more. But again, I don't require that kids apply for scholarships. I've got other easier low-hanging fruit strategies.
Sure. Well, we talked a little bit about a few of these things, but I wanted to ask you too, as an academic strategist, what have been some of the common pitfalls that you've seen where families have tried to just go let's say the traditional route? I'm filling out Pell Grants, I'm taking out student loans. What are some of the short-term and maybe long-term pitfalls that you've come across?
Yeah. Well, of course, we worry that parents are just going to depend on financial aid from the government. And so they fill out that form October 1st of the senior year of high school, and they're applying for financial aid money from the government, which I want people to do. I don't care if you're making $200,000 a year and have significant assets. I want everybody filling that thing out as soon after October 1st as every year that you'll have a kid in college, technical school, or grad school the following fall. So I want that. But then parents who have been depending on this, we're going to get government money to pay for college in about February, March, April of the senior year of high school. They're getting a report that says, here's how much money you're getting to pay for college. It's going to cost $50,000 and you're going to get $2,000 to help pay for that. And parents are saying, what? And then the child is coming back to the parents and saying, I am so excited about going to this very fancy school. You told me, mom and dad, you told me that if I studied hard and I had lots of extracurricular activities, I'd be able to go to a really good college and get a really good job when I graduate. So I've picked it out. This is the one I want to go to. And the parents are left at this point going, I know we told you that you could go to a great school, but now we know how to do math. And we're seeing that there's no money for this. And so parents are left in a really awkward situation at that point. And some of them just say, well, I'm your mom, I'm your dad. It's my job to make your dreams come true. So I will just take out as many student loans as necessary. And some parents are actually having their Social Security checks garnished when they get old because they signed away that they would pay for all of these college bills because they felt it necessary to give their kids their dream school. And I'm here to say, there are a lot of other alternatives. If a family can start early enough, they can do so many things besides saving, besides scholarships, besides financial aid that can completely turn this story around. Many families in 37 states, kids are taking dual enrollment college classes in high school, which is real college classes for real college credit, and the state pays for it. And many of these kids are walking across the stage at their high school graduation with 2 years of college completely done at state expense. Well, you can't participate in one of these programs if you don't know about it when your kid is in approximately January of 10th grade. That's the time we sign up for these programs. And so that's where a book that has really clear steps, here's what you do at this point in time, is really helpful. And I guess you were asking me about pitfalls. One is we set ourselves up so there's no money to pay for the dream. And then the second pitfall is, and this is what really breaks my heart, the kid is 22 years old and they have spent $180,000 on an education and they can't find a job in that field. That's what's really heartbreaking, because the college may have said, get an art history major. You will be able to get a great job when you graduate. And then the kid goes to job hunt in October of the senior year of college. Art history major jobs are really, really hard to come by. Contrast this with kids who clarified the bullseye on the target. They knew what they wanted to do in 10th grade or as soon as possible after that. They went like an arrow straight toward a bullseye with internships and work experience. And they're going on LinkedIn and making posts about their future career field because they've read interesting books on the subject. That's where we want all the grandkids to be. And grandparents can be a part of that story.
I love it, because to me, when I'm talking with my children and with other people that I had with scouts and youth, is I would tell people like, hey, go get that medieval French literature degree, but understand you're going to have to go teach and go to the terminal degree on that. And there's only so many of those jobs. And so just if you're going to do that, go in eyes wide open, that's going to train you for that. And there's nothing wrong with medieval French literature, but in terms of, having a lot of different job opportunities, a lot of different career choices, it can be a little bit limiting.
Yes, exactly. And here's one thing we worry about. What if the child doesn't even really like medieval French literature? I want to make sure that kid is in a career they are going to excel at and love because they're naturally interested in it. They're naturally gifted and talented with 5 strengths based on Gallup research. Their personality type is just beautifully aligned with this. The only way we get to that holy grail is by doing the career assessments when they're in 10th grade or as soon as possible after that. I can't think of any other way to accomplish career joy than identifying who the kid is very early on.
I love it. And one of the, I think, final questions I've got for you is we've talked a little bit about the process, about starting out early with these conversations, is I'd love for you to share maybe a success story, maybe some of the feedback that you've gotten from people that have gone through your program that have graduated debt-free and are having that flexibility to do what they want and maybe even follow their passions into the workforce.
Yeah. One girl comes to mind that she followed my instructions, my idea that I have in chapter 14 of Launch, How to Get Your Kids Through College Debt-Free and into Jobs They Love Afterward. She applied to a very competitive Ivy League school, but wait, she didn't go the normal route with the excruciating admissions pressure and the tremendously high expense. She went to this top 3 Ivy League school through its extension school. Now, extension school is typically for adult learners who are returning to college. But because she had taken so many real college classes in high school at state expense, she qualified as an adult learner even though she was only 18 years old. So she applied to the extension school at this very, very fancy Ivy League school. Coincidentally, interestingly, the extension school costs only a fraction of what the actual college does if you get in through the normal route. Now, she's in the same exact classes, same professors, same access to all the resources. She's got the same tests, the same papers. Her degree at the end had the name of this fancy Ivy League school across the top of it. She graduated right along with all the other students that were her age. And so by going through the extension school route, she didn't live in the dorms because adults don't live in the dorms. She got an apartment near campus with roommates. And then she just took a bus into campus and she had access to all the extracurricular activities, the research opportunities, everything, and graduated after having paid just a tiny fraction of what most people do. And her mother got back to me and said she graduated with $50,000 in the bank.
Wow.
And I hope it wasn't a bank. I hope it was a high interest savings account at least. But
Right.
she actually had $50,000 of positive net worth by the time that she graduated at the age of 20. And not only that, but she had done these career assessments, so she knew where she was going. So every college class was carefully chosen, and she had enough backbone and gumption to actually do internships so that when she graduated from there, she was out there in high demand for an actual real job. Why was this family able to do this? The girl is not a genius. Why was the family able to accomplish this? Only one reason, and that is that they knew the ideas to pursue early on. I think if it hadn't been for me, that family would have never thought about an Ivy League extension school. That they found it in just reading their little once every 3 months, you read a chapter as your kids are growing up.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I never knew that some of these Ivy League schools and probably some of the other schools have these extension programs that you can get into like that.
Yes, they're hugely helpful. But then again, I am not necessarily a fan of Ivy League education. I know this might shock everyone, but what I like to say is, Greg, you may not want your granddaughter to spend 4 straight years with a whole bunch of people who've never made a mistake in their lives. Sometimes these kids from Ivy League institutions are really risk adverse. They're told, oh, you can do anything you want with your life, but they end up all doing like one of 3 things. I have an article that I've written. Anyone can just find it for free on the internet by Googling my last name, which is Burlowski, Burlowski, and the words out of Ivy League. Out of Ivy League. And you'll find an article that I wrote on why you might want to talk your kid out of applying to the Ivy League. And I quote in there a Yale professor who is the author of the book Excellent Sheep, The Miseducation of American Youth. It's Bill Deresiewicz, and he is adamant about the reasons why you might want to choose a different school other than an Ivy League school. And in chapter 14 of Launch, I talk pretty extensively about choosing schools to apply to so we can make sure that it's one that's going to get a kid straight to their bullseye dream, getting out of college and getting a real job.
That's awesome. And Jeannie, I've got a question as far as, let's say we've been putting money into the college savings accounts and we've got money left over at the end, or maybe it wasn't used up. What do we do with that?
Yeah, there's something new that parents and grandparents and students can do with that extra money that didn't get used up in the 529 college savings plan. I am very excited about this with some special rules, which a qualified fiduciary financial advisor can cover with a family. You can take the leftover money now from the 529 college savings plan and put it into a Roth IRA for the kid. And you might be thinking, well, I don't want my granddaughter to have to wait to the age of 59 and a half to get at that money. Students who have a Roth IRA, they open it themselves or someone opens it on their behalf. If they have money in a Roth IRA for 5 years, they're able to pull it out and use it for a down payment on a first home. Tax-free, penalty-free. Really exciting. And I think what I love about kids having money in a Roth IRA, even if it's just a tiny amount, if they have that, they begin to learn about the glory and the joy of compound interest. When they go to the little bank rate calculator, you can just Google bank rate, Roth IRA calculator, and you can just plug in some numbers and say, if I'm putting in this amount of money and I leave it for this number of years at this % interest, how much am I going to have on down the line in 5 years, 10 years, or at the age of 59 and a half? And one boy said to me, I looked at that and I started actively shopping for sailboats. Because it's just exciting, the thought these kids can have I can make money while I'm sleeping. Some people don't figure that out until they're 50 years old. So I love the idea of the leftover 529 college savings money being put in a Roth IRA in that kid's name.
Oh, I love that. And you're right. And some of this is personality driven, right? Is that when you start playing with those calculators and you start showing people and even telling them like, hey, if you put $100 a month, now that you have your first big job and you start doing that, okay, what happens by the time you're 59 or 60 or 65 and you've got that huge pile of cash right there. So
yes. And to a kid, 59 and a half, that sounds like 5 centuries from now. So they may not appreciate that the way that
yep.
the grandparents will. But what's nice about this idea is whether the kids think it's great or not, it's there, it's happening, it's growing, and maybe a child will take a little interest and say, wow, compound interest? Einstein said that it was the 8th wonder of the world. And I may actually be interested in this. And maybe because this is so exciting, what I might do is I might decide I'm going to try to retire early. I'm going to live a frugal life. And I'm going to put a whole bunch of extra money into my retirement savings, and I'm going to try to retire at the age of 45. I can always go back to work if I want to, but I want to take some time to backpack around Europe while I'm still young enough to hoist that pack onto my back. And there's a wonderful movement that I absolutely love, and it's called the FIRE movement, FIRE. These are people that want to become financially independent and retire early. And anyone can just look for the FIRE Facebook group. I think it's called Choose FICI. And it's people who are choosing financial independence and trying to retire early. And they have all kinds of posts that are coming up on my Facebook feed. I am so excited in there when I see kids who are 26 years old saying, I am living really frugally, and my wife and I are putting as much money as we can into investment vehicles that are going to result in compound interest. Kids are reading the book, The Simple Path of Wealth by Collins, is the author of that book, that just explains this so well that even young college students can understand the beauty of this. And I love that we're getting kids to the point that they think financial independence, and then I can live a life of generosity. I can live a life of giving and serving and not just having to slave away at a job every day.
Yeah. And you've got the flexibility at that point to do what you want. If you want to do a little bit of ministry work for a year or two, you can do that. If you want to sail around the world, you can do that. If you want to backpack through Europe, like you said, that's awesome. But you can only do that if you are debt free or relatively debt free, and you don't have $2,000 a month that you owe to Fannie Mae or Fannie Mac.
Right. And it's especially important because some students are having to get payment plans where they take a certain portion of your income and then they spread your payments out over a long time. And some kids are 47 years old and they're still making student loan payments. And we want to have kids out from under this as soon as possible. Some students who follow me maybe they just heard of me. They graduated a year ago with a little bit of student loan debt, and they're living in their grandma's basement, and they're just putting as much money as they can, working 2 jobs so they can pay this off and get free. And we're seeing a huge movement of kids who are caring about this and being successful at it.
That's awesome. And Jeannie, I've had you on for a little while. Is there anything about launch? Is there anything about helping kids and grandkids get through school debt free that I haven't asked you that you would like to bring up?
Yes, of course. I'm hoping that all the grandparents listening will get a copy of Launch. If you can't afford to buy it, just get it at the library. Any librarian will order it for you, and just read the first 2 chapters and you'll know exactly how to use it to be able to get your kids, your grandkids through college debt free and into jobs they love afterward. That's one thing. But I also want to be a continuing presence in the lives of your kids and you as a grandfather. And so I have a free newsletter that comes out over email. It comes out every Monday morning during the school year. And then in the summertime, it comes out every other Monday morning. There's always a really interesting article in here. Also, the reading assignments that are in launch are over there on the left-hand side. So it'll say, if you have got a grandchild that is in ninth grade right now, read pages 161 to 165 or whatever it is. They're always the reading assignments are the same for an entire month. So they're really easy to do. And then I'm able to touch base and be a continuing presence in the lives of grandparents and parents, not just a meteor that flies across the horizon, but a continuing guide on this journey. And if something changes, like if something changes related to student financing, I'm able to reach everyone who follows me within a week and say, okay, this has happened. We're pivoting. We're doing something a little different right now. And so anyone can get this newsletter. It's free. And all you have to do is write this down, go to Debt Free College, and that's my homepage. Every single thing I do there is very clearly laid out. You'll see the tribe membership. You'll see how to sign up for the free newsletter that comes out on a regular basis. And I'm going to just say that again. It's debtfreecollege.us, like United States. I always tell people, go to debtfreecollege.us, spend 30 seconds, and find one thing to be curious about.
There's a lot there. I've been all over on the website, and you've got your videos, you've got your blogs, the podcast, everything there, as well as the connections to Facebook and I think Twitter. I can't remember if you're on Instagram or not, but I know all your socials are over there as well.
Everything's on there, and you really can get a sense of every single thing I can do to help in 30 seconds because it's so clear and it's so well laid out. And I'll just highlight one thing that's on there. Right at the very top in a giant red box are some free, fast-paced 10-minute training videos. And these are based on the age of the kid. So there's a training video there that says you got a kid in 7th or 8th grade, look at this one. You got one in 9th or 10th, look at this one. You got one in 11th or 12th, look at this one. And I meet you right where you are and talk to you about, here's your starting line. Here's where you get going. And the invitation to get on the newsletter list is in that video. But this is everybody's starting point. And when I say go to Debt Free College, spend 30 seconds, find one thing to be curious about. I know good and well most people are very curious to watch a video based on the age of the kid. And that is where I hope everyone will start. But all my information's on there.
Awesome. And we'll be sure to put those links into the show notes as well as some of the books and the FIRE movement Facebook link in there as well. So as people are out driving around or doing whatever, they can go to the show notes. They can find all this information here.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you so much for having me on here. I have been wanting to be able to talk to grandparents, and what better place to do it than the Cool Grandpa podcast?
Oh, well, thank you so much. This has been really great. And selfishly, I'm excited to have this conversation because my grandkids, for some reason, they just keep getting older every year. And I'm not sure what that's about, but pretty soon we're going to be having these college discussions.
Right. And it's so wonderful if they start to approach the age of 8th grade when a lot of people are starting to think about this. And there's already been a long history of goodness going on since they were little. And you're right there at the crux of it. You're the cool grandpa. You're the loving grandmother. You're the people that are making this happen.
Absolutely. And Jenny, thank you so much for being on the Cool Grandpa podcast. This has been a blast having you on and having this important discussion.
Glad to be here, Greg. Thanks for all you do.